Welcome to the Tomorrow's World Today podcast. We sit down with experts, world-changing innovators, creators, and makers to explore how they're taking action to make tomorrow's world a better place for technology, science, innovation, sustainability, the arts, and more. And now, this week's episode.
In this episode of the Tomorrow's World Today podcast, George Davison, who is also the host of Tomorrow's World Today on Science, interviews Kim McHugh, who is the vice president of the Rockies Business Unit at Chevron, a multinational energy corporation. Kim talks about her responsibilities overseeing operations in Colorado, the importance of hiring people who love solving tough problems, how Chevron embraces new technologies like AI and machine learning, and the critical role oil and gas play in everyday life, from fueling our cars to producing plastics, electronics, and even renewable energy infrastructure. Now here's George.
Today we have a great guest. Her name is Kim McHugh, and she is with Chevron. And her title's so long, I think I'm going to let her say what it is today. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. So I'm the vice president of the Rockies Business Unit for Chevron.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean you get to do?
Well, it really means I support all the people who operate in the state of Colorado for Chevron. So the production, the drilling, the exploration, anything that goes on in Colorado for Chevron, I'm responsible for.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's kind of size up the world of Chevron if we could. I mean, This is, from what I hear, it's a pretty big company, right?
It's pretty big, yes.
So how many employees are we talking in the world?
Yeah, so we roughly have over 40,000 employees worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, very large company.
Very large. So with a company that large and with 40,000 people to employ, what are you looking for in the world of, let's say, the employees of the future?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with the kind of person, right? Because we need people who want to solve problems and are very geared to really difficult. We like to say we do difficult. So at Chevron, we need engineers of all types. Data analytics is going to be a big part of the future because data, the power of artificial intelligence, machine learning, all part of what we do. But at the same time, look, we need people in finance. We need people in computer science, public affairs. We are an international company, so having people who understand how the economy works, we need them, this whole value chain. So it's not just one thing or another, but I think that core is people who want to do difficult things.
Nice.
Yeah.
So solving problems, finding opportunities, and learning how to, let's say, make those things come to life. Would that fit into it?
Absolutely. Innovation. That's
Innovation.
What we're here. Yeah,
right.
That's what we're looking for.
So we would refer to that as, in a way, STEM and STEAM, science, technology, engineering, math, and art.
Absolutely.
If it's STEAM. So we're hearing that more and more often now, that we need more of these young people coming up with those types of capabilities.
Yeah, I appreciate you bring the arts into it because people don't really connect that STEM part to the arts, but it's that creative, different way of thinking.
Yes.
I danced until I was in high school. I played sports. I played a saxophone. That arts part, I think, helps you look at problems differently. I have a daughter who's a mechanical engineer, but getting a second degree in the performance. So modern dance performance is her second degree.
Wonderful.
So both sides of that brain working together.
Yes, the more technical work with more creative work.
Absolutely.
We actually work on that here as part of what we do. It's like a work-life balance. So if you do grind into the work, let's say the real hard mental work, you do need relief. And if you have some creative arts, that can be a real release agent, right?
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit more about yourself.
Okay.
Let's say back when you were in high school. Can you walk me back a little bit so that others can see how you navigated to this high level at such a big company? I mean, you didn't start here.
No.
So what was your childhood like?
So my dad is in the industry. So
Okay.
he started in drilling and completions, which is where I ended up. My mom was a nurse. And so she was an emergency room nurse. So both of them, the science and math, very strong. I had just a natural affinity to it. I enjoyed it. Along with, my dad always fixed things. So back then, a long time ago, we fixed things. So vacuum cleaner's broken, you take it apart, you fix it, a radio, and I was always right there with them because I just found it fascinating, taking something apart, putting it back together. So I think that's part of this engineering.
Yes.
You just need a natural curiosity for how things work. So I was the one with him. My brothers, not so much, didn't enjoy it as much. I did. And so then progressing there, my dad always encouraged me. I was scared of the sight of blood. So nursing was not for me. I knew that wasn't going to happen. So he just kept leaning in. And I liked the fact that there weren't a lot of women. It was something different no one else was doing.
Interesting.
So coming through high school, my scores in math and science were strong. I played sports. I think that also set me up for where I am now.
Yes.
Because you learn teamwork. You learn you don't always like everyone on your team. You may not really appreciate your coach as much as you should, but you learn to perform, get along, work through it. You go through some downtimes, you lose, you win. I think all of that sets you up for leadership. But the science part of it was just always something I leaned towards. And so then I went to college in petroleum engineering. So I have my bachelor's and my master's in petroleum engineering.
So were you a good student in high school?
Yes,
You
I
were?
was a strong student in high school. My parents really encouraged. And at the same time, there was never you can't do. I had teachers who were encouraging, which makes a big difference, I think, when people are telling you your potential or what you can do. But I just always expected out of myself strong grades, studying, putting forth. So having to give up, so maybe you didn't always get to do the things everyone else was doing because of a test the next day you needed to prep for. But in the long run, really glad I put that effort in there.
I remember the days where there was like a line in the sand at our home where it was your playtime is being cut.
Yeah.
And you're going to start working toward your more math and all these other things, which I really was resistant toward myself personally in the beginning, because all my friends were outside wanting to go, goof off.
Correct.
But what an important and defining moment in our lives when we're young, when it's like, okay, time to transition.
Yeah.
And it's real important. So thanks for sharing some of your backstory. I think it's important to share that with our audience, that they understand that we've had to put effort in to achieve where we are. Are you enjoying what you do today?
Yes, absolutely. And I've enjoyed it the whole way through. It's just been different each stage, I miss the problem solving, maybe the engineering I don't get to do as much in my role now.
Yes.
And so any chance I get to be in a conversation that's talking about it, I enjoy it. But I get the same, my kids, right? Getting them into engineering and the sciences and biomedical and all. So it's been kind of that labor of love on the engineering science with them too. Yeah. But you said earlier, and it is important that you have that playtime, because you need to unplug, you need to disconnect, but you need to put that effort in, and maybe you don't see it when you're really young on how the benefits can pay out later on. But that hard work, those work ethics, putting that in, it pays out dividends.
Sure does.
Yeah. And it's interesting. It doesn't mean every day is great.
Right.
Like I have rough days. There's days you go home and that was a tough one.
Yes.
But there's so much better that it outweighs the tough times. And to your point, like I really enjoyed, early in my career, I worked on drilling rigs. So I would go Gulf of Mexico. I got the opportunity, I'd fly on a helicopter, go out there, do work, touching equipment, like that sort of thing. And I really enjoyed the people I worked around. These are hardworking people out in really difficult weather and conditions.
Wait, so you didn't always start with, like, let me see your hands. Are they
no calluses, except for maybe golf, I guess. I don't know.
But you were on the rigs out there and where the oil's actually being drilled, right?
That's correct. I was out there. Yeah.
That early start, was that internship?
Well, I had internships, and so I worked in some internships in the field working. But when I started my career, part of the important part is to build that knowledge, right? There's book knowledge, then there's how things are really done, that knowledge. And so in order, I think, to build the credibility, how can I engineer and design a well to drill if I've never actually been out there, seen the equipment, and seen what it takes to do it?
There you go.
So I spent 4 years rotating in the Gulf of Mexico to these rigs. It was myself and 50 men out there, right? And you start cutting your teeth on not just your technical, but your leadership style. Like, how do you want to be? And so I learned out there that when you actually are honest with what you know and what you don't know,
Yes.
and you respect what other people know and have them teach you, now this builds a bond. Like, they don't want you to fail, right? And so that relationship really helped me to learn, to be a better leader. They just make sure you've ordered all the right parts or the right things coming out on the boat, because you don't want to be delayed. You don't want to, in a safety aspect, they'll talk to you when they don't think something's right. If you don't build that relationship and people aren't telling you the potential problems and what's going on, yeah, you will fail.
Right.
So I did that. I also worked out in East Texas, fracking. So we were doing that. Can you believe I've been doing this 36 years? And we were doing that back then. But again, out in the elements. And so you're leading a group who knows more about what they do than you do. It's a dynamic, but I loved it. I mean, to this day, when I can get out in the field, be on our locations, it's out there with your crew, right?
Yes.
That's my happy place,
Yes.
because that's really where the work is done. So to this day, I'm still learning. My role, I'm not the smartest person in the room. I have a team of people who know their area better than I do. So you have to rely on them for information. You've got to ask the right questions. We have teachers when we're young. Teachers, that doesn't stop. There's
Right.
somebody always teaching you something, right? And so
Exactly.
that's, to me, the benefit of being able to say, I don't know, will you show me?
Yes, making yourself vulnerable and saying that I don't know something, I think you're right. I think it gives people an opportunity to communicate in a more close way
Yeah.
that can create a bond.
That's right.
All that kind of stuff that I think really makes the business team, the sports team work well. I'll just leave it at that. But you touched on a couple other things that are leading me down a path with understanding the role and the important role that drilling and the product that comes out of the earth,
Yeah.
how vital it is to our society as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't think most of the population really understands when we pull that raw material out, what are the other kinds of things that, I mean, everybody just thinks, oh, it's the gas that goes in my gas tank of my car.
Right.
But it's really not. Can we talk a little bit about, like, if they're at people's homes right now, if they're using a hairbrush, that's plastic.
We're there.
There's oil in that plastic
That's right.
hairbrush, isn't there?
Yes.
What other kind of things that would, like the packaging that's sealed around your food in the freezer, is that oil-based as well?
Pretty much everything in your life is touched by the oil and gas industry. Medicine, the lights, the parts to build things. So your iPhone, like, people have these smartphones, they plug them in the wall. We're there. And I think that's where people forget. To your point, they connect it to putting the gas in the tank. It is so much broader than that. The plastic that makes tennis shoes, we're there.
Yes. Once I was a little younger and I learned the value of oil and gas, and it just spiderwebbed out to all the industries of everything that I knew, and I thought, I didn't realize how important this industry really was. Is there anything else you'd like to share that you can think of there?
Yeah, well, let's talk about solar panel.
All right.
You can't make a solar panel without the products that oil and it comes out. So it's part of that. Windmills. A lot of people don't realize to keep those windmills running in
Yes.
cold weather, guess what? It's got antifreeze. That's a product. It's a product from oil and gas. And just to make the blades, the body, all of those things, there's still that base product that comes from the oil and gas industry. So it's really important to recognize that it's a vital part of our everyday lives. It's just not the fuel in your tank. And that, to me, getting people to understand that connection, so important, because it's not going away.
Right.
We've got to learn to use it maybe in smarter ways, but we're also out there trying to lower the carbon in our footprint as how we produce it, right? That's the evolution that it's taking, but it's still there.
Right.
It is. I always like to say what we do is a very noble industry because lives are better because of it.
So true.
Yeah, so when you look at the world population, people want what we have: light, heat, affordable, reliable, cleaner energy. And there's a lot of the world that doesn't have it today. So it's still going to be a part of the fabric of energy for a very long time.
Oh, I agree. And it's plentiful if you know where to find it.
Yeah, like
So-
natural gas. It's a great product to use clean and how it can provide energy and things like that. So yeah, it's important.
When you look at technology and innovation and how it's moved in this industry, we've really gone from the discovery time, which is always messy. It's kind of like when they built the first computer, it's the size of this studio.
Absolutely.
And now we're talking about it's in my phone. The power of that room is now in here. It's the same thing. Back in the day, things were really messy, and there was no real understanding of the environmental hit that we were going through. Yeah, they could see the dirt and whatnot. However, with more time, innovation comes in.
Absolutely.
And now I see where they're doing the fracking and everything. I'm like, look at this is so it's elegant. In fact, up in farm country, which isn't far from here right now, you can see where the pumps are, and they're right there where they're growing the food.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's
We have wells in the middle of a farm, right?
Yeah.
So tractors are moving around, and then you've got this
Exactly.
well in the middle of it with a very small footprint. So it has evolved. It's evolved in the time I've been in the industries, and it will be better tomorrow than it is today.
Exactly.
There are a lot of problems we need to solve. We need to continue to grow this renewable. Like, we believe in renewable. We use renewable energy in our own business, right? But to solve the problems, you need to come in here with us.
Yes.
Right? It's standing outside and complaining, or being part of the solution.
Love that.
And we think we're part of that solution. So we need those creative minds to come in, and what's the next big break we're going to have?
Let's talk about that next step then.
Yeah.
If we're on to that discussion of innovation, Chevron's, I'm sure, active in all sorts of areas, but are there a couple areas that you're focused on right now that you're trying to solve some challenges in?
Yeah, so there's a lot of challenges, right? Some of the challenge today is how to continue to lower the carbon footprint, right? How do you do that to continue to produce? So we produce a lot of really clean barrels. It doesn't mean there's not opportunity to continue and strive. We need to produce cleaner barrels. So I think that's an area. How do you get, you said earlier, getting more out of the rock. So how can we get more? We leave a lot of the oil and gas in the ground because it's really hard to recover it. That would be a tremendous movement if we can get more of those reserves out. So you wouldn't have to drill more wells and do that if you could get more out of the wells you have.
Yes.
So that's a constant piece of innovation that we're trying. And then looking at hydrogen as a fuel source for like long distance transportation. That's another clean energy source.
Isn't that interesting? So you're in the oil and gas business, and you're not in the oil and gas business, you're in the energy business, right? Isn't that another way to say it?
Yeah, for us.
Because if you move into oxygen, you're not pulling oxygen out of the ground, but oxygen can be used as a energy source.
Sure,
a very
sure.
powerful one if you can learn the technology.
To harness it and keep it safe. Absolutely. And that's part of what we do. Yeah, we're in the energy business. At Chevron, what we've decided to do is let's stay in the parts that we're really good at and where more of the innovation is needed. So we're not an electricity producer. We aren't out there trying to replace, we're not in wind, we're not in solar. We use that product, but we're not a producer of that. We're tending to be, where's the complicated stuff? There's a lot of people who know how to do that already. So let's go where we're good and use that. So, when you start to talk about carbon sequestration and underground storage, that sort of thing, well, we understand under the ground. That's the pore space, how the pore space works. So let's focus on that. Hydrogen as a fuel source, renewable fuels, a lot of the sustainable aviation fluid. We're a part of that picture. So we're trying to stay in the space where we think we have our strengths. Let others who are doing let them do that part of the business.
That's great.
Yeah.
So strategically, you've really thought it out as an organization, huh?
Yeah, to me, it's a very, very well thought out. Let's play in the space that we have our strengths, and then look to what are those future kind of opportunities. So yeah, we've got a lot of really smart people. I noticed when you and I were walking in, it was one of your displays was talking about patents.
Yes.
At Chevron, we have over 4,000 active patents and over 1,000 that are in the works to come through. So a lot of really smart, inventive people that are out there looking to the next solutions.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. We believe the future is oil and gas is still a part of it, but it's a lower carbon future. And we believe that people deserve reliable, affordable, ever cleaner energy. That's our role, is to provide that. You think about the world, like the 8 billion people today, I think by 2050, they say there'll be close to 10 billion people in the world. You'd be surprised how much of the world does not have what we have, which is reliable, cleaner, affordable energy. They don't turn on the lights. They don't have heat. They don't have air conditioning. They don't have a refrigerator to store food. They want and deserve that kind of a lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. So that means the energy today is probably the lowest demand we're going to have. Because if you start to think about artificial intelligence and all the storage of the cloud,
right,
all that takes energy.
Demands energy.
It demands it. And so this demand is just growing. That's not including, if you just think of that, along with what people need safe energy sources.
Sure. Yeah.
Then that demand's going to increase. And that's our role, is to provide that. You know, I go back, that's why I think it's a noble cause. Mm-hmm. Because since the inception of the oil and gas industry, people's quality of lives are better. They live longer. That's part of what we do. I mean, I believe in what we do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. Whatever it is you do, you need to believe in it. And what do you provide? And do you make lives better because of what you do? And that's in anything. I think it'd be very hard to have a career and not believe in the product, not believe in the kind of how you fit in. So, yes. Yeah.
Let's, if we can kind of take a little travel back in time,
okay,
to 140 years ago, when Chevron was an idea in the mind of somebody. Can you talk a little bit about the founding of Chevron? How did that happen?
Yeah, so it's interesting because 146 years ago, it was actually Pacific Coast. It wasn't Chevron. So that's how it started as a company. And those founders and how they came up, it was a smaller company with an idea, producing oil and gas. Then it actually got purchased by Standard Oil of Iowa. And these two companies then came together to form Chevron. So you see this all the time. Yes. Companies go back in their history. They didn't start where they were to develop to where they are today. But then that brought two smaller companies together on a larger, and then that started our journey.
So some business acquisitions along the way, some mergers?
Absolutely. So that's an interesting. So where I operate out of, my job in the Rockies Business Unit, which is in Colorado, in 2020, Chevron acquired a company called Noble Energy. That was our step into Colorado. Then last year, we acquired another company in Colorado, PDC Energy. So we brought those two companies together in Colorado, and so now we're the biggest oil and gas producer in the state. So we went from 2020 not having a presence in Colorado to now 2024, we're the biggest producer.
So if you were to project a future for us in the field of, you can pick energy or you just set Chevron, what do you see in the near future?
You're going to see more automation, robotics come into our industry. Because a lot of what we try to focus on is safely doing what we do, right? So how do you take humans out of those scenarios to make it safer? So I think you're going to see more of that. I think you're going to see a lot more application of artificial intelligence. We'll be using that in ways to predict. Instead of, we use data and we can find, say, a failure in a vessel. How can we use all this data that's coming through to predict it before it happens to give us the chance to repair? So I think you're going to see even more of that. We use it in the exploration side of the business, right? So we're going to get smarter on what's going on underground through seismic. I think all of that is going to evolve very quickly because we're learning at a pace now that we've never learned before. I think the future is going to continue to evolve on the cleaner, lower carbon footprint. That is something that will continue to do. I also think this whole concept of, getting more out of the ground than we get today, we're talking in a lot of cases, it's single digits of the percentage we can get out. Think about that. So how much is still there to get? So how do we get that out? I think the future too, how can we use less water, right? That's a conversation. People are working on that today. What can we do? And then we're continuing to try to reduce our footprints. So our footprint is how much land do we use to be able to put our facilities out there? Yes. So how do you evolve making it smaller, making that footprint even smaller, drilling fewer wells to get more? So today, we can drill 4 miles out horizontally. Yes. So think about that. I'm taking steel, we go straight in the ground, and then we turn it 90 degrees and we go out. So how do you make sure you're getting everything out of that you can? And then we just have been doing some here lately. I think we call U-laterals.
What's a U-lateral?
Yeah, it's fast. The technology is amazing. So now you can drill out that horizontal, say a mile or a little over, completely turn and come back the other direction.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it is literally a U, it looks like a U shape in the ground. So
and that's going to spread even more fracking, is that right?
Right, so now you can connect more of the rock,
yes,
again with fewer wells at the surface. Again, you're reducing the footprint, get more out of the wells that you put in the ground. A lot of people don't understand. So the rock that we're drilling in, so what you would call your target, right?
Yes.
It's like this. It's not brittle, there's not pools of oil under the ground, right? So you're going in what we call shale.
Yes.
So shale is a very hard rock. So if you saw it, you'd think of granite just sitting there. So the fact that we're drilling in this really hard rock, fracking is what allows us to release the oil and gas.
From the rock.
From the rock, correct, and then bring it out. So you're constantly evolving this technology to make it better, to get more out of the rock, again, at the surface to reduce the emissions from our facilities. So after you drill this, frack it, which would be the completion phase of what we do, then you bring this oil and gas to the surface and flow them into a facility that then will send the product to be refined at refineries.
And there's more down there, huh?
Yeah.
Even though all that technology's been developed, there's still more to get. So innovation's still coming, is what we're saying.
Yeah,
right?
That's where having people come to solve the problem.
Yes.
That's the trick, is somebody is going to have an idea that no one's thought of yet to release more of it. So it's never done. I mean, we've got people all the time coming up with more ways, even on how you frack. So, questions around, well, what if I have 3 horizontals, right? What if I frack these 2 and not the middle one? Could they frack and connect to that one that then that well could produce? Who knows?
Right.
So it's this constant evolution of, and some of the equipment, my dad and I, because we still talk about the industry, and he always loves to hear, what problems are you trying to solve? And so sometimes I'll show him a piece of equipment. So we have a project now in the Gulf of Mexico that has the most advanced drill ship in the world. So it can handle 20,000 PSI and can lift 3 million tons of hook load. So that's kind of the casing and all that, how it can lift. So I was showing him some pictures and all, and he looked at what we call a blowout preventer. A blowout preventer is what controls the well, so we can close in on the well. But anyway, he goes, well, you just made it bigger. And I thought that was such a fascinating comment, because he retired quite a while back. He worked Gulf of Mexico and all, and he's seen these equipment. So here we've made this technological advance on it can handle higher pressure, but he thought it would look different. So that's where I'm saying somebody's going to come and look at that piece of equipment and go, why is that not a circle? Why don't you round that? That's the innovation that's going to keep taking place.
Thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for making the time. I really appreciate it.
Well, everybody, that's another edition of Tomorrow's World Today. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Tomorrow's World Today podcast. Join us next time as we continue to explore the worlds of inspiration, creation, innovation, and production. Discover more at tomorrowsworldtoday.com and connect with us on social media at TWT Explore. And find us wherever podcasts are available.